Hi, my name is Leslie Whitty, and I am the Vice President of Outreach and Communications for the South Central Workforce Development Board. Joining me, we have Dr. Robert Boone. He is the President, CEO of the board, and also John Swords, who is the VP of Operations and Special Projects.
Yes.
We are going to be looking through an exciting new project that John and Robert have been really working on for quite some time, and we're extremely excited to share this information with you all. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Boone just to give us more details and exactly what we'll be looking at.
Thank you, Leslie, and it's great to be with you all. As a workforce board, we wanted to look into jobs advertised in our region. So we have released our own open jobs report, and that's what we will be presenting today. The first part of this report is going to be an interview with Leslie moderating. The second part is going to be a deep dive into the data, which John will lead. And this report is all about job advertisements in the 10 counties of South Central Kentucky. And we are utilizing a software program called Jobs EQ. It's widely used in economic development circles and in workforce circles across the country to really find job advertisements and to output data regarding job advertisements. This is the same software that the Bowling Green Area Chamber of Commerce uses for their open jobs report. And we want to provide more detail into that report. Basically, Jobs EQ works in such a way that it scours the internet and finds job advertisements on sites like Monster and CareerBuilder, among many others, and then it outputs a number of job advertisements. Sometimes this number is referred to as open jobs, but I will say that a job advertisement doesn't necessarily mean open jobs. So, for example, a job advertisement may exist, but there may be 10 positions that advertisement is actually trying to fill. The good example of that is registered nursing, for example. One job advertisement may equal 10 positions. Conversely, there may be job advertisements posted in our region that exist outside of our region, maybe even in another state. So we wanted to really provide a deep dive into this data utilizing Jobs EQ in our analysis and review of our open jobs report. And I'll turn it back to my team for ongoing discussion.
Very good. We'll begin by looking at the big picture. And I wanted to let everyone watching know the initial segment will be an overview and lots of very good information in the overview. And then we will be going into much greater detail. So we hope you continue to watch throughout this episode, but if you are only able to watch the review, I feel like there are valuable takeaways in this big picture graphic. John, would you mind starting us off and just explaining what we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Leslie. So as you can see on the slide, what we did is we looked at a 30-day period from August 2nd through August 31st. And what we pulled was that there were 7,442 jobs advertised in our 10-county region in that 30-day period. Large number, right? I mean, and it does, that number is an indicator that we do have a strong regional economy and lots of opportunity here. But as we kind of peel that back just a little bit, and that's what you're seeing on the slide is just a little bit of peel back on it. What we found was that out of that 7,442, there were over 2,000 of those jobs were listed as part-time. 4,346 when we looked at them, those jobs had an average wage that was either at or below $15 an hour. So I think 58% of the 7,442 were for jobs that were below $15 an hour. And then lastly, what we found is over 1,100 of the jobs actually were that we're posting inside of our region onto our zip codes for jobs that don't actually exist here. So, and then lastly, and we'll get into this in further detail in the next segment, out of that 7,442, a third of all jobs were for the retail, hospitality, and food sector, which is a huge driver of our local economy. So there's just a few snapshots that we wanted to share on this big picture takeaway slide.
Right, and for me, and I know everyone's different, but for me, the number that just jumps off the screen is this 1,115 jobs, actually advertised jobs. These are jobs that aren't in our region. I mean, they may not even be in our state, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so JobsEQ does try to call those out, and it does a decent job of it. But there are there's a few sectors where it doesn't do such a good job, and so a vast majority of that 1,115 are for over-the-road truck driving jobs. And when you really get into the numbers, what you find is 75% or maybe a little bit more of all the truck driving jobs listed are actually with companies that don't have a presence here. They just need somebody with a CDL to drive. So are they jobs that people in our region can take? Absolutely. So from a job seeker perspective, it is an open job. But from through the lens of economic development or workforce development, well, those companies aren't here. They don't have a warehouse here. They're not they have no physical presence here. So are they really open jobs in our region? We leave them in there. We let them be counted, but we also want to make sure people know that, 7,400 open advertised jobs might not be truly 7,400 jobs that are vacant right now in our region.
Right.
So just, it's just a way to look at that through the lens of economic development or versus a kind of job seeker lens.
So just to put this in a hypothetical format, let's say I own a trucking company located out of state. I need CDL drivers. So I put advertisements in newspapers, in whatever, across the United States. Those are all counted if they're in, our region as an advertisement, but the job itself is not necessarily physically located in our region.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah. Here, let me give you an example, Leslie. So so some of these trucking companies, they might run in a 30-day period, they might have 60, 70, 80 job advertisements being run in our region. Mm-hmm. And if you really peel it back, what you're going to see is they are running an ad in every single zip code we've got. And so, yeah, they're in the big markets in our region. You're going to see them in Bowling Green and Glasgow and Russellville, but you're also going to see them in places that you may not have visited before in our region, places like Rocky Hill or Canmore or 88 or Summershade or Adolphus. I mean, they're just spamming zip codes, and so it's getting scooped up and counted by the system. And what we've tried to do in our analysis is say, all right, we see those, and let's tag that and say, well, there's at least 1,000 jobs, 1,100 jobs actually that probably shouldn't be counted, but we're just gonna identify them as being jobs that exist, but they really are technically outside of our region.
The important thing here is we're just not outputting a number. We are analyzing that number so that the stakeholders, employers, community members who look at this open jobs report can really see that the number 7,442, for example, in this case, is really peeled back. And we're just not projecting a number out there with no analysis and no background information, which is why we've put so much effort into analyzing the data and why we are putting so much effort into going through these slides verbally so that there really isn't any question that that there are 7,442 jobs in our area that are open, but maybe 1/3 of them in the retail and hospitality sector, for example. That's good information to know. 1,115 outside of our region. That's good information to know. So we're really peeling back and putting an analysis behind the total number of job advertisements or open jobs.
Very good, because I'll just tell you, previously when I've heard these big numbers, my automatic assumption was these are open jobs in this region. And the actuality is they are advertised jobs, some of which may not be in our region, some may be part-time only, some may be at or below $15 an hour. That gives me a much better, overview of that number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's what we're seeking to do.
Very good. So as far as the specific industries or clusters that John will be taking us through in much greater detail, we have all those listed here. This initial portion, again, is meant to give you some good context, to give you a good overview. But following this segment, we will have John go into a lot greater detail. And I'll just tell you, from looking at the information, I'm blown away, just because it's refreshing to see the specifics. And having this data is fantastic, because it's an opportunity to see what do we need to focus on, how can this information help employers, so I think it's incredibly insightful. And I appreciate all the work that has gone into it, because I know it's been a lot. So we will conclude this overview now, and then we will have a second segment where John goes into his deep dive. And I think I would encourage everyone to watch it, because if you're in this region, all of this information impacts you in some way, shape, or form. But if you just watch this overview, I still think it's good information. All right, so we will conclude our overview here. I encourage you to watch our deep dive into the Open Jobs Report, our analysis and review, and we will be providing a link to that as well. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all.
All right.